You keep wondering why life feels like a desert, silent, dry, lonely. You've prayed, but heaven seems quiet. You've pushed, but the doors won't move. It's like you're stuck in a season where nothing makes sense, and it's starting to make you question everything: your purpose, your worth, your faith. But before you give up, hear this. What feels like a setback is actually a setup. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Stay with me until the end, because your wilderness is not where the story ends. It's where the real story begins. You didn't get lost. You were led here. It may feel like everything has gone off track, but the truth is, this wilderness didn't catch God off guard. The silence isn't accidental. The delay isn't punishment. This place where you feel forgotten, overlooked, and misunderstood, this dry, confusing space, is not the end of your journey. It's the birthing ground of your calling. Deuteronomy 8:2 says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart." The wilderness isn't to destroy you, it's to reveal you. And more importantly, it's to reveal Him. You're not just passing time, you're being prepared. God hides those He's about to use. He isolates those He intends to elevate, just like David in the fields, Moses in the desert, and Jesus in the wilderness. You are in divine training. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's lonely. But don't confuse divine strategy with human rejection. You're not alone. You're set apart. You've been asking, why is this taking so long? But time in the wilderness isn't wasted. It's invested. There are things you're learning in this season that will sustain you in the next. This is where you're shedding everything that can't go with you into the promised land. Pride, fear, insecurity, dependency on people. They're dying here, so you can walk in authority later. Exodus 13:17 says, "When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter." Why? Because the short route isn't always the safe one. The fast road isn't always the faithful one. God didn't lead you into the wilderness to abandon you. He led you here to protect what He placed inside you. You may not see it now, but heaven sees you. Every tear you've cried in private, every doubt that's whispered in the night, God has collected everyone. Psalm 56:8 says He keeps your tears in a bottle. That means none of your pain is meaningless. None of your struggle is being ignored. It's all part of the process, and the enemy knows it. That's why he's trying to convince you that this season is a waste, that you're too far behind, that you missed your moment. But he's a liar. If anything, the battle has intensified because your breakthrough is closer than ever. And it's not just any breakthrough. It's the kind that breaks generational chains. It's the kind that redefines your story. It's the kind that shakes hell. And that's exactly why you're in the wilderness. Because something sacred is being forged in you. You're not being overlooked. You're being watched by heaven. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. And yes, it's hard to see when you're surrounded by silence, but it's in the silence where roots go deep. It's in the quiet where faith is purified. Romans 5:3-4 says, "Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope." That means what you're going through is building something eternal inside you. Something weighty, something holy, something no applause could ever give you. That's why God has you hidden, because He doesn't want your identity wrapped in recognition. He wants it rooted in Him. And maybe that's why it hurts so much, because part of you thought the wilderness meant you were forgotten. But the truth is, it means you're favored. God only refines what He intends to release. He only breaks what He plans to rebuild stronger. And He only hides what's holy. Isaiah 48:10 says, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. You are not being buried. You're being planted. And seeds don't bloom the moment they're in the soil. They fight through darkness before they ever see light. That's you right now, fighting through, pushing upward, breaking through. And when you do break through, because you will, it won't just be for you. Your wilderness is producing oil. Your struggle is birthing strategy. Your crushing is creating capacity. This season is not just about survival. It's about stewardship. Because what God is placing in your hands on the other side of this won't be light. It'll carry eternal weight. That's why He's making sure you're ready. Not emotionally ready, spiritually ready, mentally grounded, rooted in His voice, anchored in His truth. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are in the hands of the potter, and He's not done shaping you. Even if your life looks nothing like you imagined, you are still right on schedule. Jeremiah 29:11 isn't a cliche. It's a promise. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. That means even your wilderness is wrapped in divine intention. You're not circling in vain. You're being aligned. So don't rush out of this place. Don't despise the desert. Don't wish away the wilderness. Lean into it. Ask God what He's revealing. Ask Him what needs to die in you so new life can begin. Because the promised land doesn't come to the version of you that walked into the wilderness. It comes to the version that walked through it and was transformed by it. God is not just taking you somewhere new. He's making you someone new. And that takes time. That takes fire. That takes surrender. You're not stuck. You're stationed. You're not abandoned. You're assigned. And no, this season doesn't look like the breakthrough you prayed for. But sometimes, before the breakthrough happens around you, it has to happen within you. And that's what this wilderness is all about. It's not punishment. It's preparation. It's not a detour. It's design. It's not rejection. It's refinement. Because your wilderness is a setup, not a setback. You were graced for this journey, anointed for this terrain, handpicked by God, not in spite of the wilderness, but because of it. You didn't miss the mark. You were marked before you missed. Ephesians 2:10 says that you are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which He prepared in advance for you. And sometimes, what God prepares doesn't look like favor. It looks like fire, but it's holy fire. It's refining fire. It's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to purify everything that can't come with you into your calling. You've been asking God to take you to the next level, but the next level requires a next level version of you. And that version, it's being born in the middle of this wilderness, in the waiting, in the wondering, in the aching tension of not yet. You've been praying for clarity, and God answered with silence, not because He's distant, but because He's drawing you closer. He's not giving you quick answers. He's training your ears to hear the whisper. Because when you come out of this wilderness, you won't just be strong, you'll be sensitive to His voice, to His leading, to His presence. And that sensitivity will guide you more than strategy ever could. You see, you've been trained to think that results come from hustle. But God's about to teach you that real fruit only comes from intimacy. Abide in me, Jesus said in John 15:4, and you will bear much fruit. Not abide in platforms, not abide in opinions. Abide in Him, and the wilderness strips away everything else until that's all you have left, and that's all you need. This isn't punishment, it's positioning. You're not losing time, you're gaining depth. You're not being delayed, you're being aligned. Because sometimes the fastest way to the promise is to walk through the process. And this process, it's working. It may not feel like it, but every tear is watering seeds you can't see yet. Every lonely night is softening the soil of your heart. Every unanswered prayer is deepening your dependency on the only one who truly sustains. And that dependency, that's where true power lives. That's where anointing flows. That's where destiny ignites. You think you've been wandering, but God says you've been circling the promise. You think you've been stuck, but He says you've been stationed, planted, rooted. And roots don't show. Roots don't shout. Roots don't sparkle. But they're the reason anything grows. Isaiah 37:31 says, once more, a remnant of the house of Judah will take root below and bear fruit above. The fruit is coming. The breakthrough is coming. But first, God is getting your roots right, deep enough to withstand storms, strong enough to carry glory, hidden enough to be trusted with influence. Because shallow roots grow fast and fall faster. But what God is building in you will not be shaken. So don't curse the silence. Don't resent the waiting. Don't despise the wilderness. It's not your grave. It's your garden. Something is growing here. Something sacred. Something unstoppable. And though you may feel forgotten by man, you've been remembered by heaven. The wilderness didn't cancel your calling. It clarified it. The ache didn't disqualify you. It refined you. And the fact that you're still breathing, still seeking, still showing up in faith, even when you feel empty, that's the proof. The enemy threw everything at you, and you didn't break. You may have bent, you may have wept, but you didn't break. And that, my friend, is the sound of destiny still breathing. So lean into it. Don't run from the dry places. Run toward the one who turns deserts into rivers. Isaiah 43:19 promises, I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. If you feel lost, that's only because you're not meant to navigate this by logic. You're meant to walk it by faith. The kind of faith that trusts even when it trembles, that hopes even when it hurts, that worships even when it wonders. And that kind of faith, that's what moves the heart of God. That's what rewrites generational stories. That's what shifts atmospheres. And it's being formed in you right now. Your wilderness is not a detour. It's a divine classroom. And your teacher has not gone silent. He's just testing your sensitivity. Can you trust him when he's not speaking? Can you follow when you can't see? Can you stay planted when the ground feels dry? Because your yes in the wilderness will echo louder in heaven than 1,000 yeses in the spotlight. And God is watching, not to judge, but to champion, not to condemn, but to cultivate, because He sees what you don't. He knows what this fire is forming. He knows what this stretching is strengthening. And one day, so will you. You've been walking through this season, wondering if anything good can come out of it. And heaven is whispering, not only will something good come out of it, but you will come out of it better, bolder, and more anchored than ever before. The wilderness is not where your story ends. It's where your real story begins. It's the fire where idols fall, where your need for applause burns away, and all that's left is your raw, vulnerable yes. That's the kind of yes God builds on. That's the kind of surrender He trusts. Deuteronomy 8:2 says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart." And right now, the wilderness is not proving how strong you are. It's proving how trustworthy you are. You don't need to prove yourself. God already chose you before you ever performed, before you ever prayed the right words or showed up with spiritual fire. He chose you in your mess, in your breaking, in your nothingness. The wilderness is not about earning His love. It's about finally understanding it, that His presence doesn't depart when you're dry, that His love doesn't shift when your emotions do, that His promises are not canceled because of your confusion. No, beloved, your wilderness is the very stage God is using to remind you that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. Not just in the miracle, but in the middle of your confusion. Not just in the breakthrough, but in the breaking. And if it feels like everything around you is crumbling, good. That means God is stripping away every false foundation you've been depending on. The approval of people, the illusion of control, the comfort of clarity. He's removing every crutch so you can finally stand in Him alone. Because what's coming next will require a faith that isn't propped up by perfect conditions. What's coming will require a boldness that isn't swayed by storms. What's coming will demand a love that is rooted not in feeling, but in covenant. You've been asking to be used mightily, and God is answering, not by elevating you publicly, but by purifying you privately. That's what this wilderness is. A holy hush, a sacred stripping, a divine silence where your soul stops screaming for outcomes and starts craving intimacy. And in that silence, something sacred happens. You start hearing Him again, not just through verses and sermons, but in the stillness, in the ache, in the ordinary. You begin to recognize the whisper of the one who never left, who never stopped watching, who never stopped working. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That means in your most broken state, you are not disqualified. You are closest to His heartbeat. This isn't wasted time. This is womb time. God is birthing something in you that couldn't be formed in the spotlight, something too precious for platforms, something eternal. And birthing is always painful, always hidden, always bloody. But when the labor is over, and what God planted in you comes forth, you'll understand why it had to happen this way. You'll stop praying for escape and start thanking Him for endurance, because endurance did what escape never could. It gave you spiritual backbone. It gave you discernment. It gave you a well that runs deep. And that well, that's what others will drink from. Not your perfection, your process. You see, the wilderness doesn't just prepare you for promise. It prepares you to carry others through theirs. You become a guide, not because you had a map, but because you know what it's like to walk with no visible path and still keep trusting. You become a voice, not because you were always strong, but because you know what it's like to praise with trembling hands and a cracked voice. You become a testimony, not of a rival, but of faith that never gave up, even when everything screamed that it should. That kind of faith changes atmospheres. That kind of faith shakes hell. That kind of faith is forged in wilderness. So, if you're in the middle of it right now, the confusion, the loneliness, the ache that won't let you sleep, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And no, that doesn't mean God delights in your pain, but He does see purpose in it. He sees what it's forming. He sees how it's breaking off the fear. He sees how it's softening your heart. He sees how it's making room for real glory, not just moments of hype, but weighty, lasting glory that changes lives and crushes chains. And this glory, it won't rest on the surface. It's coming for the deep places, the hidden places. And that's why the process has felt so personal, so surgical, because God isn't just fixing behavior. He's transforming identity. You're not stuck, you're being stripped. And the stripping is sacred, even when it feels savage, because God won't allow you to carry old weights into new seasons. That fear that's been hiding in the cracks of your confidence, it can't come. That insecurity you've baptized in excuses and called humility, it can't come either. That need to be understood by people who were never assigned to your destiny, God's cutting it loose. This is the pruning before the pouring, the emptying before the filling, the divine discomfort that precedes your real deployment. John 15:2 says, "Every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." That means the cutting is proof you're fruitful, not failing, and that's the lie the enemy wants you to believe. That the loss means you're off course, when really it's heaven fine-tuning your direction. The people who left, the doors that shut, the things that dried up, it wasn't rejection, it was realignment. You've been praying for next level purpose, and God is answering by purging anything that can't hold the weight of your next level. Because anointing is heavy, glory is weighty, calling is costly, and if you're going to carry it with integrity, the wilderness must first carve out the capacity. So stop cursing the silence and start paying attention to what it's revealing. God is exposing not to embarrass you, but to elevate you. He's not shaming you, He's shaping you, and He's doing it in the most sacred way possible, in the secret, because what is built in secret cannot be sabotaged in public. When the time comes, and the stage is set, and the door swings open, you won't be scrambling for identity. You'll walk in with a fire that doesn't flicker under pressure, with a word that wasn't downloaded in a moment of hype, but forged in nights of agony, with eyes that have seen the backside of the mountain, not just the bright lights of man-made influence. And when you speak, things will shift, not because your voice is loud, but because it's backed by scars. You'll know how to hold the oil, not spill it, how to walk in favor without being seduced by flattery, how to love people without idolizing their opinion. This is what the wilderness teaches: dependence, depth, discernment. It's a season that makes you dangerous to darkness, because once you've met God in the empty place, you stop needing the applause of crowds to feel whole. You stop performing. You stop pretending. You just carry presence. And that, more than anything else, is what the world needs. Not more influencers, but image bearers. Not more giftedness, but yieldedness. Not more platforms, but pierced hearts. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" The wilderness sharpens your perception. It detoxes your senses so you can finally see the new thing, not through carnal eyes, but spiritual clarity. It doesn't look like what you expected. It doesn't come when you planned, but it's coming. And when it does, it will make sense why the fire had to be that hot, why the silence had to be that long, why the waiting had to feel that brutal. It will make sense why God didn't rescue you too soon, because rescuing you early would have robbed you of the revelation that only comes through wrestling. And now you wrestle differently, not for identity, but from it. Not for approval, but with assurance. Because the wilderness didn't just stretch your faith, it rewrote your identity. It stripped away the labels, the noise, the fear, and left behind something unshakable. A son, a daughter, forged by fire, marked by grace, and carried by a God who never wastes a wilderness. And now, after everything you've walked through, everything you've cried through, everything you've questioned in the dark, you're still here, still breathing, still believing, still becoming. And that's the proof. The wilderness didn't break you. It built you. The loneliness didn't crush you. It clarified you. The silence didn't steal your faith. It stripped away the noise so you could hear his whisper. And now, you carry something that no one can take, because what you received in secret wasn't borrowed. It was born. It wasn't taught in a sermon. It was carved into your soul through seasons no one else saw. And that makes you dangerous to hell, because now you know what the enemy never wanted you to discover, that this wilderness was never a detour. It was a divine strategy. That the delay wasn't denial, it was protection. That what looked like silence was actually sacred instruction. You were being hidden, not forgotten. You were being grown, not grounded. You were being purified, not punished. You were being trusted with something heaven couldn't give just anyone. And now the shift is happening. The ground is trembling. The atmosphere is changing, because your wilderness is wrapping up. The cloud is lifting. The season is shifting. And what God formed in secret is about to be revealed in power. But don't rush it. Don't try to escape what still needs to be completed, because unfinished surrender is the greatest threat to your next season. Stay tender, stay yielded, stay close, because the same God who kept you in the drought is about to water every seed that was buried in faith. The promises are not dead. They're just deep, and heaven has not forgotten one word that was spoken over your life. Isaiah 55:11 says, "My word will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." That means even when you feel like you're at the end, God is just getting started, and He's not asking you to have it all figured out. He's asking you to trust, to take the next step, even if it's trembling, to keep showing up when no one's watching, to believe that the God who allowed the wilderness has also prepared the breakthrough. And when it comes, you won't have to force it. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to manipulate doors or beg for favor. It will flow, because what's birthed in obedience never requires performance. What's forged in the fire never bows to pressure. And what's been refined by God carries a fragrance the world cannot replicate. So, don't resent your wilderness. Reverence it, because it was there, in the empty, in the aching, in the hidden, that you encountered the God who sees, the God who stays, the God who shapes. And now you're different. Not louder, not flashier, just deeper, rooted, ready. And when you walk out of this, and you will, don't forget who held you. Don't forget who fed you manna when there was no way. Don't forget who whispered, "Keep going," when you had nothing left. Carry his presence the way you carried your pain, with reverence, with fire, with faith. Because your wilderness was never a setback. It was a setup. And breakthrough is no longer just a word. It's your next step.